Good evening. About 600 people have just stepped off on a protest march up the main street of Dunedin. The march has been organised by the Health Action Network to protest at government cuts in health funding, which mean the Otago Area Health Board may have to reduce spending by $10 million this year. It's already earmarked Queen Mary Maternity Hospital for closure and is talking about cutting surgery and moving psychiatric patients back into the community. A public meeting in the town hall begins in a few minutes. Otago and to a lesser extent Southland are leading New Zealand in coming to terms with new local government boundaries. That's according to the head of the National Transition Committee, Sir David Beattie. The committee's been in the South over the past couple of days listening to local concerns about the change. Michael Lynch reports.
Come October, ratepayers and the people who run our local bodies are in for a shake-up, as the TV commercial keeps on telling us.
Councils will now have more powers and more responsibilities. New legislation is designed to create councils which are more efficient and more accountable.
But local bodies are a tad miffed about this, suggesting the old ways weren't the best.
I am conscious of the criticisms. They've appeared in Invercargill yesterday, Alexandria yesterday afternoon, and I imagine in the other room where my deputy's carrying on. And the answer is that I will be speaking to the Minister as to whether we can sharpen in the publicity to the local areas concerned so that the people, the ratepayers, really understand.
Do you think it was perhaps a bit naughty to suggest that our previous local government was perhaps a little remiss in doing things?
I'm not going to comment on that to you.
However, apart from Wallace County in the south, which is still trying to stay independent, Sir David and his team seem more than happy about the way the changes are being accepted. Whether they're the prelude to even bigger things, he won't say.
Well, as the chap said when he landed on the moon about this time 20 years ago, one step for mankind, one step at a time is enough, I think.
But even for now, the changes will be significant, he says.
Because all councils must take more notice of what we have to say.
Prospects for a big bus park on the outskirts of Queenstown have rekindled a long-running row over industrial development in the scenic gorge between Queenstown and Arthur's Point. The local authorities again under fire for dumping spoil in the gorge and for its lack of a long-term plan for the area.
4 years ago, a young Queenstown woman organised a 1,200 signature petition to save the town's scenic entranceway from further industrial development and from being used as a dump for building spoil. The council accepted the petition, but nothing much has happened since, except more spoil's been dumped and developments inched out of town, including a planned park and servicing centre for 60 buses. Bus parks have always been a problem in Queenstown, and the former park has now been developed by the council as a green space. But shifting the buses into the gorge isn't making the protesters any happier.
That bus park going there will influence what happens to that next bit, and so on. It's a domino effect, and the whole gorge very likely could just go down the same path, one bit after another.
But surely we've got to put industry somewhere in Queenstown.
Oh, indisputably, but I don't think it has to be in a major entranceway.
The council does have plans eventually for sports grounds here, but the opponents say there's also provision for further industrial development, and little's been done in 4 years to clean up the existing industrial site.
We're selling mountains and scenery. We all rely on it. That's our living. That's what we're here for. And the council, I believe, must have that uppermost in their mind when they look at absolutely anything, because otherwise we're just spoiling the product that we're trying to sell.
A further application for industrial development in the gorge is coming up soon. Opposition is expected.
Our familiar old red wooden post boxes will soon be a thing of the past. An Invercargill company, GR Hill Limited, has won the contract to make cast aluminium boxes to replace them. The new boxes will be installed over the next 4 years. New Zealand Post says they'll be cheaper because they require less maintenance and last longer than the wooden ones. A Dunedin boat builder's designed a schooner he hopes will be the beginning of a long production line of similar ships to be built at Port Chalmers. The first boat's already underway with the help of some Access scheme workers, and it's due to be launched next year. Kathy Graham reports.
A disused shed on the waterfront is where the 70-foot schooner's taking shape. It'll be flat-bottomed after the style of the scows which plied New Zealand's coast at the turn of the century. Jonathon Todd, who's masterminding the project, says the design's traditional, but the ship will be fitted with modern equipment. The idea is to build a boat which can be operated in wilderness areas like Fiordland, providing quality accommodation for tourists without spoiling the environment. This ship will accommodate 12 guests in 6 double cabins, each with ensuite bathroom. And there'll be room for a saloon and a large deck house with dining and lounge areas.
Fjordland can't have onshore facilities, so we'll sail the facilities in. The university down here is the closest university to this great big World Heritage Park. They presently don't have vessels capable of accommodating 16 people in comfort, so we can do university work.
The boat builders are 6 Access Scheme trainees. They've been on the job a month.
There are people who've been standing around on the dole who really could use a little bit of excitement. Well, seems to me, although I'm a little biased, that this is a fairly exciting thing. There's not a lot of 70-foot wooden schooners being built around the world at the moment. This is one of them.
Jonathon put up $10,000 himself to get the project off the ground. That's provided the materials and some tools. He's confident Dunedin Line will find enough funds to see the ship into the water. By then, he estimates it'll be worth $1 million.
The Access Scheme involvement is to bring people into an exciting project and show them that you really can do the impossible with nothing.
An experiment in fine wool production in Southland has proved that high country merinos can be farmed indoors, producing wool as good as or better than they'd grow in the mountains. The technique's being pioneered in New Zealand by a Southland couple who are hoping to cash in on booming merino wool prices. Here's Kathy again.
It's midwinter and these sheep are losing their wool, but that won't matter. They're not going outside. They've lived here in this wool shed for the past 18 months. It's a far cry from the high country where they were born and bred. The 50 merinos on this Southland farm are among the first in the country to be farmed this way. They're fed 1 meal of silage a day with a bit of straw for afters. The object of the experiment is to encourage them to grow even finer wool, and it's worked. Ken and Lynn Williams, like farmers all over the country, are hoping to cash in on the fashion for fine wool, which has turned merino farming into one of the most profitable businesses in the country. They hope to get $100 a kilo for their wool. That would make this fleece worth $200, at least 3 times the average price merino wool fetched 6 months ago. Farming sheep battery hen style is new to this country, but not to Australia. The Williams defend it by saying the sheep are in good condition.
They're still getting the same amount every day, and they certainly don't have to go looking for it like they would in the winter if they're out in the wild.
Unless wool prices drop, it'll be another 8 years or so before these sheep see the light of day again.
That's it for this week, and Hilary will be back on board on Monday. Good night.